My name is Martin Voss. I'm 73 years old, and my life ended the day I buried my wife. Barbara and I were married for 50 years. 50 years of breathing the same air, fighting over the same stupid things, and building a life from the gravel up. The silence in our house isn't just silence. It's a physical void. It's the sound of her not being there. But this isn't a story about grief. It's about what came after. It's about how that moment of absolute loss became the trigger for a war I never saw coming. A war against my own blood. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. Barbara and I met in Austin when we were both 22. I was a mechanic with grease permanently embedded in the lines of my hands, working at a shop that smelled like burnt oil and regret. I had dreams bigger than my paycheck and barely enough money for rent. She was a secretary in a downtown office, sharp, organized, and she saw something in me I didn't even see myself. We were married 6 months later. We had $50 between us and a one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and a bathroom down the hall. The first few years were brutal. I worked 18, sometimes 20 hours a day. I fixed cars all day and took on side jobs all night, rebuilding engines in a rented garage bay. Barbara kept working, and she saved every single dime. She was the one who managed the books, who found the apartment, who believed in the plan. We were a team. When our son Dominic was born 46 years ago, we decided Barbara would stop working. That meant I had to work even harder, and I did. I loved that boy. We both did. He was our world. Barbara was a full-time mother, and I was a full-time provider. I poured every ounce of my energy into making sure he never felt the hunger or the cold that I had known. When Dominic was 5, I scraped together enough to open my own shop. Just 2 bays, but it was mine. I called it Voss Vehicle Solutions. My reputation for honest work spread. The business grew. I hired a crew. I opened a second shop, then a third. Over 30 years, I built a chain of 5 of the most trusted auto repair centers in the state. But we never got flashy. Barbara and I bought a simple, solid house in a middle-class neighborhood. We didn't care about impressing anyone. We invested in property, buying land when it was cheap. We were secure. Dominic, however, grew up in a different world. We paid for private school. We paid for his college, a business administration degree. When he graduated, he just assumed his spot was waiting for him. I hired him as a manager at our largest shop. I paid him well. Far more than he was worth, I see now. Something shifted in Dominic during college. He developed an ambition that wasn't for building, but for having. "Dad, when are you going to give me my own shop?" he'd ask. "When you prove you can run the one you're managing now, Dominic. You were 40 minutes late 3 times last week." "It's just that the pay isn't high enough to be motivating. If you paid me more, I'd be more focused." This was our broken record. For years, it was always someone else's fault. The employees were lazy, the customers were difficult, the commute was bad. Never him. 10 years ago, Dominic married Tabitha. She came from an upper-middle-class family and was dressed head to toe in brand names I didn't recognize. The first time she came to our house for dinner, I watched her run a finger along our simple oak dining table, a faint look of disgust on her face. "Mr. Voss, you own 5 shops? And you live here?" she asked, her voice dripping with artificial sweetness. "This house has served us well, Tabitha. It's paid for. But the prestige. People won't think you're successful if you live so modestly. People can think what they want. I know what I have. I said. After the wedding, the demands escalated. It started with Dominic needing a raise for his new responsibilities. Then they wanted a house. Dad, I need a bigger raise. Tabitha and I want to buy a house in a good neighborhood. Dominic, I pay you $30,000 a month. That's more than enough for a mortgage. But the houses we want cost more. I'm 35, Dad. I deserve a decent place now. That word. Deserve. I overheard Tabitha talking to him on our patio one evening, her voice a sharp hiss. Dominic, why are you asking? It's your money. He's old. He can't run that company forever. You need to step up and take what's yours. He's holding you back. I should have stepped in. I should have said something. But he was my son. Instead, I gave them a loan for $20,000 for their down payment. I knew I'd never see a penny of it again. 5 years ago, Barbara's health started to fail. It was a slow, cruel decline. At first, it was just fatigue. Then it was aches that became chronic pain. Doctors ran tests, gave us treatments, but it was a battle we were losing. For those 5 years, I was her caregiver. I drove her to every appointment. I learned to cook the special meals she needed. I helped her bathe when she was too weak to stand, and I sat with her through the long nights when the pain kept her awake. Dominic and Tabitha visited maybe once a month. Their visits were always brief, never more than an hour. Son, your mom asks about you every day. She'd love to see you. I know, Dad. I'm just slammed at work, and Tabitha has her charity events. We're exhausted. She's your mother, Dominic. I know. I'll try to come by next weekend. He rarely did. I'd watch Barbara stare at the door, her hope fading with the afternoon light. She never complained, but I saw the hurt in her eyes. It was a different kind of pain, one I couldn't fix. One afternoon, they did show up. Tabitha stayed in the entryway, texting on her phone. The air in here is so still, she complained. Dominic came into the living room where Barbara was resting. He checked his watch twice in 10 minutes. So, Mom, the doctor's figuring anything out yet? They're trying, dear, Barbara whispered, reaching a weak hand for him. He gave her hand a quick pat, avoiding her grip. Well, you hang in there. We've got to run. Big dinner reservation, you know how it is. We'll be back soon. He wasn't. 6 months ago, the doctors told us she had 2 or 3 months left. I told Dominic. That's awful, Dad. Is there anything we can do? Yes. Come see her. Spend time with her while you still can. Of course, Dad. This weekend for sure. He didn't come that weekend. Or the next. 2 weeks before she passed, Barbara called me to her bedside. She was frail, but her eyes were sharp. Her mind was crystal clear. Martin, she said, her voice a dry rasp. I need to tell you something. Anything, my love. The ranch. The one I inherited from my uncle 20 years ago. I know, sweetheart. 500 acres. It's beautiful. It's solely in my name, Martin. I never put it in yours or Dominic's. And there's something else. I have investments. Money you don't know about. Money I saved and grew from my uncle's inheritance. I waited. It's $29 million, Martin. I couldn't breathe. 29 million? Yes. I grew it over decades. Smart investments, private advisors, and Martin, I've changed my will. Barbara, what did you do? The ranch. The 29 million draw, my 20% share of Voss Vehicle Solutions, and my half of this house. It all goes to you, Martin. Directly to you. Not to Dominic? He's our son. He is, she said. and a tear rolled down her hollowed cheek. But I've seen him, Martin. I've seen what he is, what she has made him. If that money goes to Dominic, he will sell the ranch in a week. He will burn through that $29 million in a year. And when it's all gone, he will come for your shops, and he will leave you with nothing. He wouldn't. He will. You're a good man, Martin. You see the boy you raised. I see the man he's become. I need to protect you. From our own son. She gripped my hand, her fingers surprisingly strong. Promise me, Martin. Don't tell him anything about this will. Let him think everything is as he assumes. If he's truly the man I fear he is, he will show his true colors the moment he thinks he has all the power. Let him. Let him show you. I promised. I would have promised her anything. 2 weeks later, Barbara passed in her sleep. I was holding her hand. I called Dominic. Son, your mom, she's gone. What? When? I'm on my way. He and Tabitha arrived an hour later. Tabitha didn't even go into the bedroom. She stayed in the living room, checking her phone. Dominic looked at his mother for 30 seconds, then came out. Dad, we need to talk about the arrangements. Not now, Dominic. But Dad, decisions have to be made. I'm your son. It's my responsibility. I'll handle everything. His tone wasn't grieving. It was efficient. It was anticipation. The funeral was 3 days later. Dominic and Tabitha managed everything. In my fog of grief, I was almost grateful. I didn't see the whispers between them. I didn't see Tabitha taking notes on her phone every time I mentioned an account or a document. At the cemetery, after the last shovel of dirt, the other guests drifted away. It was just the three of us, standing by the fresh grave. Dominic turned to me. His eyes were cold. Well, Dad, it's over. Mom's at rest. Yes, son. And now we need to talk about the future. Your future. My future? Yes. You're 73. You can't live alone in that big house. You can't run the shops. It's time for you to retire. Dominic, we just buried your mother. We have to do this now, Dad. Decisions have to be made. And as your son, as the heir to everything, I'm going to make them. The heir? Yes. Mom's gone. That means everything that was hers is now mine. The house, the money, the shops, all of it. And you're no longer useful. You can't work. You can't live independently. So Tabitha and I have decided. I just stared at him. A retirement home is the best place for you. A place where they can care for you. Where you won't be a burden to us. A burden? Dad, let's be real, he snapped. We have our own lives. We can't be babysitting you. You either agree to go voluntarily, or I'll have you committed. I'm in charge now. I just nodded. I remembered Barbara's words. Let him show you. All right, Dominic. Whatever you say. That night, they drove me back to my house. Pack an overnight bag, Tabitha ordered. We'll find a home for you tomorrow. I went to my room, packed a small suitcase with clothes, my toiletries, and the thick envelope with the copy of the will Barbara had given me. When I came down, they were in the living room. This place is huge, Tabitha was saying. We'll need to gut it. It's so dated. And the shops? You'll take control tomorrow? First thing, Dominic said. I'll call the accountant. Dad's emotionally shattered. He'll sign whatever I put in front of him. My blood ran cold. Ready? I said, my voice hollow. Change of plans, Tabitha said, not looking up from her phone. My mother needs us. We can't deal with you tonight. You can sleep in the guest room. But understand this, Martin. This is no longer your house. It's ours. Be invisible until we can place you. The next morning, I came down for coffee. Tabitha was in the kitchen, on the phone. She saw me and scowled. "Why are you still here? I thought we told you to leave. You said you'd take me to the home today." "Well, plans changed. We don't have time. You need to leave. Now." "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem. A hotel, I don't care. Get out." "Tiffany," I said, using her name for the first time in years. "This is my house." Her face twisted in rage. "No, this is our house now. Dominic inherited everything. Get out, or I'll call the police for trespassing." Dominic walked in, drawn by the shouting. "What's going on?" "Your dad won't leave, Dom. Tell him." Dominic looked at me with pure contempt. "Dad, enough. Take your things and leave. Now." "Dominic, I'm your father." "It was your house," he spat. "Now it's mine. Mom is gone. That means I'm the owner, and you are an unwanted tenant. Get lost." Tabitha had already grabbed my small suitcase from the guest room. She marched to the front door, threw it open, and hurled the bag onto the lawn. "Out! Get out of our house!" She shoved me, hard. I stumbled over the threshold, catching myself on the railing. I found myself standing on the front walk, my home of 40 years behind me. The door slammed. I heard the deadbolt slide home. I stood there, a 73-year-old widower, locked out of my own life. I stared at the closed door, the reality crashing into me. The will, Barbara's warning. I had the proof. I walked to my suitcase, still sitting on the damp grass. I fumbled with the zipper, my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip it. I tore it open, pulling out shirts, my shaving kit. I dug to the bottom. It was empty. The thick envelope Barbara had given me was gone. "No," I whispered. I ripped everything out, throwing my clothes onto the lawn. It wasn't there. They must have gone through the house safe. They must have found it while I was sleeping in the guest room. They'd found it, and they'd destroyed it. They knew about the will, and they destroyed it, thinking it was the only one. A wave of panic hit me. Pure, cold terror. Barbara had protected me, and I had failed. They had won. They had the house, the shops, and they had just destroyed the only thing that could stop them. I saw a neighbor staring from their window. Humiliation burned my neck. I stuffed my clothes back into the bag and started walking, with no destination. I just walked, for blocks, until I found a payphone. My cell phone was dead. I dug in my pocket for quarters. My hands were still shaking. I dialed the number I knew by heart. Eastwood and Associates. "Get me Eastwood, now! It's Martin Voss." A moment later, his calm, deep voice came on. "Martin? My God, I'm so sorry about Barbara. Are you all right?" "They kicked me out, Eastwood. Dominic and Tabitha. They threw me out of my house." "What? When?" "Just now. And the will. Barbara's new will. They took it. They must have found the copy in the safe. They destroyed it. It's gone, Eastwood. It's all gone." There was a long pause on the line. I leaned my head against the cold metal of the phone booth. "Martin," Eastwood said, his voice suddenly sharp as steel. "Listen to me. What Barbara gave you was a copy. I am the executor of her estate. I am holding the original, notarized, and legally executed will right here in my office safe. They haven't destroyed a thing. They've just confirmed everything Barbara said." Relief hit me so hard my knees buckled. "Martin, where are you?" "On a street corner. I don't even know." "Stay right there. I'm picking you up. We're going to war." Eastwood pulled up 10 minutes later in his black sedan. He got out, opened the passenger door for me, and put my small suitcase in the trunk without a word. He just looked at me, his eyes full of a quiet fury. "She told me," I said as he got in. "She warned me this would happen. Every detail." "Barbara was the smartest woman I ever knew," Eastwood said, pulling into traffic. "And she was wiser than all of us. She knew her son. She set a trap, Martin, and he walked right into it. He called me a burden, useless. He's going to learn the meaning of those words. But first, we formalize." In Eastwood's top-floor office, he laid it all out. "First," he said, tapping a stack of documents, "the house. It was held in joint tenancy. Upon Barbara's death, her share passed directly to you. It's 100% your property. Dominic has zero legal claim. He is, as of this morning, trespassing. He said he was the heir. He assumed. He never checked. Second, Voss Vehicle Solutions. It's a corporation. You own 80% of the shares. Barbara held the other 20%. Her will bequeaths her 20% directly to you. You now own 100% of the company. Dominic is an employee, a high-paid one, but an employee nonetheless. He thinks he owns it. He's in for a rude awakening. Third, the ranch. 500 acres, worth an estimated $12 million, left to Barbara by her uncle, solely in her name. The will transfers it entirely to you. Dominic doesn't even know it exists." "Exactly. And fourth," Eastwood slid a bank statement across the desk. "The private investments, $29,340,000, all consolidated into a new trust, of which you are the sole beneficiary. It is all yours, Martin." I stared at the number. "What do we do now?" "Now we execute Barbara's wishes. First, we get your house back. I'll file for an emergency eviction order. With this documentation, a judge will sign it by tomorrow. Then we give them 24 hours to vacate. And the shops? That, Martin, is up to you. But I suggest you reassert control. Visibly. He kicked me out of my own house, Eastwood. He vandalized my wife's memory. Reasserting control is just the beginning." It took 3 days to get the order. 3 days I spent in a quiet hotel, planning. On the third day, Eastwood, a uniformed court officer, and I drove to my house. My house. I rang the doorbell. Tabitha ripped the door open, her face a mask of rage. "What are you doing here? We told you to get lost. I'm calling the police." "That won't be necessary, ma'am," the court officer said, stepping forward. "I'm here to serve a legal notice." "Notice of what?" "An eviction order. You and your husband, Dominic Voss, are illegally occupying this property. The legal owner, Mr. Martin Voss, requires you to vacate the premises within 24 hours. Tabitha froze. Her color drained. "What? That's impossible. This house belongs to my husband. He inherited it." "Ma'am," Eastwood interjected, "this property was held in joint tenancy by Mr. and Mrs. Voss. Upon her death, ownership transferred 100% to Mr. Voss. Your husband has no, and never had any, legal claim." "That's a lie. Dominic!" she shrieked. Dominic appeared behind her, his face red. "What the hell are you doing here, old man? I told you to leave." "Mr. Voss," the officer said, handing the papers to Dominic. "This is a court-ordered eviction. You have 24 hours to remove your belongings. If you fail to comply, you will be forcibly removed by the sheriff's department." Dominic stared at the documents, his arrogance visibly crumbling into confusion. "This isn't real. This house is mine. My mother left it to me. Your mother had nothing to leave you regarding this property, Eastwood said. It was always co-owned with your father. And now it is entirely his. No! Mom had money. She had properties. It's all mine. Your mother did have properties and investments, Mr. Voss, Eastwood said, his voice cold. And in her last will and testament, she left all of it, without exception, to your father. You inherit nothing. I watched my son's face cycle through shock, disbelief, and finally, raw panic. Dad? This is a mistake. It has to be. Mom wouldn't do this. Your mother knew exactly what she was doing, Dominic, I said, my voice flat. She knew you'd call me useless. She knew you'd try to put me in a home. She knew you'd throw me out, and she protected me from you. But we were going to take care of you, put you in a nice home. While you lived in my house and spent my money, you have 24 hours, Dominic. Tabitha started to wail. You can't do this to us. We're family. Family doesn't throw their father onto the street the day they bury their mother, I said, turning away. As we walked back to the car, I heard Tabitha scream at Dominic. You idiot! You told me it was all yours. You told me he was nothing. You stupid, stupid man. The next day, exactly 24 hours later, I returned. This time I brought 2 police officers with me. The house was unlocked. They were gone. But they had left their mark. The living room looked like a hurricane had hit it. They had taken knives to Barbara's favorite armchair, slicing the fabric to ribbons. The walls were covered in spray paint. Useless old man was written in black paint above the fireplace. They had smashed the antique vase Barbara loved. In the kitchen, they had dumped flour and eggs all over the floor. In my bedroom, they had overturned the furniture. It was pure, childish, destructive rage. One of the officers whistled. Mr. Voss, this is felony criminal damage, malicious vandalism. We'll take a full report. Photos, everything. Do you want to press charges? I looked at the slur painted on my wall. Yes, I do. Document every last thing. I spent that night in my own house, the smell of spray paint burning my nose. But I wasn't sad. I was focused. This was only step 1. The next morning, I drove to my flagship shop, Voss Vehicle Solutions. I walked in at 8 a.m. The employees stared at me. Mr. Voss, we're so sorry about Mrs. Voss. We didn't expect you. Thank you, Jim. There's work to be done. Is my son here yet? Not yet, sir. He usually gets in around 10. Of course he does. I'll be in my office. I went to the back office and called in the office manager, Sarah. Sarah, I need Dominic's complete personnel file, all his performance reviews, and I need the financial binders for this branch for the last 2 years. Sarah turned pale. Mr. Voss, I can't. What do you mean you can't? Dominic came in yesterday. After he was served the papers. He was in a rage. He said he was officially taking over. He went into the filing room, sir. He took his own personnel file and the binders. He shredded them, Mr. Voss. He said he was cleaning up the books for the new ownership. I felt the floor drop out. He had covered his tracks. Years of his late arrivals, his unexcused absences, his warnings, all gone. And the financial binders. What was he hiding? He destroyed company property, I said, my mind racing. I didn't know what to do, Mr. Voss. He's your son, he said. It's not your fault, Sarah. Thank you. That's all. She left, and I sat there furious. He'd outmaneuvered me. I could still fire him, but he'd sue for wrongful termination, and I had just lost my mountain of proof of his incompetence. There was a soft knock on the door. It was Manny, one of my senior mechanics. A quiet man I'd always found slightly shifty. He was too friendly with Dominic, always laughing at his jokes. I'd always suspected he was as lazy as my son. "Mr. Voss, can I have a word?" "I'm busy, Manny." "It's about Dominic, sir, and the files he shredded." I looked up. "Come in. Close the door." Manny stepped in, holding an old-fashioned cloth-bound black ledger. "Mr. Voss, I've worked for you for 15 years. You've always been fair." Mrs. Voss. She was a wonderful woman. She co-signed the loan for my first house when my credit was shot. I was stunned. She did? Never told you, I guess. That's who she was, which is why I couldn't stand by and watch what he was doing. "What are you talking about, Manny?" "I knew this day was coming. I knew you'd get sick of him. But Mr. Voss, Dominic isn't just lazy. He's a thief." My heart hammered. "Explain." Manny opened the ledger. It was filled with neat, handwritten entries, dates, invoice numbers, and amounts. Dominic's been creating fake invoices, ordering parts from shell companies he created. We get a delivery of air filters. He invoices the company for high-performance brakes. He pockets the difference. He's been doing it for at least 2 years. Skimming. How do you know? I'm the one who signs for the deliveries, Mr. Voss. I see what comes in. Then I'd see his invoices. It didn't add up. He then pulled a USB drive from his pocket. I made copies of all the fake invoices and the bank transfers from the company account to his shell core. It's all here. I've been keeping my own set of books, just in case. Manny. Why? Because he's poison, Mr. Voss. He treated us like dirt and was stealing from you and Mrs. Voss the whole time. I was just waiting. I'm sorry about Mrs. Voss, but I'm glad you're cleaning house. He set the ledger and the USB drive on my desk, an unexpected ally, and he just handed me the real weapon. At 10:15 a.m., Dominic stormed into the shop. He bypassed the front desk and kicked open my office door. "You! You think you can throw me out of my own house? I'll sue you for everything. You're fired, Dominic." He laughed, a short, ugly bark. "You can't fire me? I'll sue you for wrongful termination. I'm the best manager you have." "No, you won't," I said. I slid the black ledger and the USB drive across the desk. "You're not fired for being late. You're fired for felony embezzlement." His face went white. He looked at the ledger, his eyes wide with terror. Manny kept very detailed records, fake invoices, shell companies, over $100,000 in the last 2 years alone. I'd call that a fireable offense, wouldn't you? He was speechless. "You have until noon to clear out your desk. Leave your keys, your company car, and your credit card. If you are not off this property by 12:01 p.m., my next call is not to my lawyer. It's to the district attorney. We clear?" Dominic looked at me, his eyes full of a hatred I had never seen. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked out. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 2 weeks later, a man in a cheap suit served me with lawsuit papers while I was having lunch. Publicly. Dominic was suing me. He was contesting Barbara's will, alleging I had manipulated a mentally incapacitated woman. He claimed I had coerced her into signing the will on her deathbed. He was also suing for wrongful termination, claiming the embezzlement charges were fabricated. Then he went to the media. A local news station ran a story. Grieving son kicked out by cruel father. There was my son on camera crying. "I just lost my mother," he sobbed, "and my father, He's vindictive. He's using his money to control us. He threw me and my wife out on the street just days after the funeral. My mother would have been horrified. My phone rang off the hook. Eastwood was furious. He's painting you as a monster, Martin. We have to respond. I agreed to one interview with one reporter at my house. A young woman named Jerome arrived, her expression skeptical. "Mr. Voss," she said, "your son paints a very dark picture. He says you evicted him out of grief and spite." "My son," I said, "is a liar, and I have proof." I showed her everything. I gave her the court officer's name. I showed her the police report and the photos of the vandalism. "This is what my grieving son did to my house after I served him with a legal eviction notice. Does this look like the act of an innocent victim?" Her eyes widened. She took pictures of the police report. "He claims you fabricated reasons to fire him." "I don't need to fabricate," I said. I slid the ledger and a copy of the USB drive across the table. "This is a ledger of his embezzlement. Fake invoices, shell companies. He stole over $100,000 from his mother and me while she was dying." The reporter looked at the evidence, then at me. Her skepticism was gone, replaced by shock. "Mr. Voss, why is he doing this?" "Because his mother, my wise, brilliant wife, saw exactly who he was. She changed her will 2 years ago when she was in perfect health, and she cut him off to protect me. He thought he inherited everything. He found out he inherited nothing. This isn't grief, it's greed." The story aired that night. The headline, "The Will, the Lies, and the Ledger. Austin Businessman Fights Back." The lawsuit went to its first hearing. The courtroom was packed. Dominic and Tabitha were there with a cheap lawyer who looked out of his depth. Dominic's lawyer argued, "Your Honor, we allege this will is invalid. Mrs. Voss was sick, she was vulnerable, and the defendant, her husband, manipulated her." "Do you have evidence of this mental incapacitation?" the judge asked. "Well, she was very sick. That's not evidence. Mr. Eastwood?" Eastwood stood. "Your Honor, we have medical evaluations from 2 years ago, when the will was first drafted, and from 6 months ago, when it was updated. They both state Mrs. Barbara Voss was of sound mind and body and completely lucid. We have testimonies from her doctors. Furthermore," Eastwood continued, "Mrs. Voss had the foresight to include a specific clause in her will explaining her decision. With the court's permission, I'd like to read it." The judge nodded. Eastwood put on his glasses and read Barbara's words. "I leave all my assets, properties, and investments to my husband, Martin Voss. Not because I do not love my son, Dominic, but because I love him enough to protect him from himself. I have observed his sense of entitlement and his wife Tabitha's encouragement of it. I fear that if Dominic inherits my estate, he will squander it and then leave my husband with nothing. Therefore, I leave everything to Martin with the instruction to protect himself. If Dominic proves to be the person I fear he is, if he attempts to kick Martin out, mistreat him, or take advantage of him, then Martin has my full blessing to cut him off from any future inheritance." The courtroom was dead silent. Dominic was white as a sheet. The judge took off her glasses. "Those are some of the clearest and most prescient words I have ever seen in a will. Mr. Dominic Voss, did you do any of the things your mother predicted?" "Your Honor, I was upset. Answer the question. Did you try to kick your father out of his house the day of the funeral?" Dominic's lawyer said, "He suggested a retirement home would be safer." "He was thrown out," Eastwood interjected, "and his house was vandalized. for which we have a police report. The judge slammed her gavel. This lawsuit is completely without merit. Mrs. Voss's will is valid. Her predictions were, tragically, 100% accurate. Case dismissed. And Mr. Dominic Voss, I am ordering you to pay the entirety of the defendant's legal fees. This frivolous suit has wasted this court's time. Dominic and Tabitha looked devastated. I had won, but it felt hollow. I had destroyed my own son. A few days later, I drove to the ranch. I hadn't been there in years. It was 2 hours outside Austin, 500 acres of rolling hills and oak trees. The manor house was beautiful, a colonial structure that was elegant but not flashy. The caretaker, a man in his 60s named Mr. Jennings, met me at the gate. Mr. Voss, welcome. I'm so terribly sorry about Mrs. Voss. She was an extraordinary woman. Thank you, Mr. Jennings. How are things? Running smoothly, sir, just as she liked. But I'm glad you're here. You had some visitors 3 days ago. Let me guess. A man and a woman in their 40s. Yes, sir. Your son, Dominic, and his wife? He had a key to the gate. Said he was the new owner, that he'd inherited everything. He wanted to take inventory, starting with the main house. He was very arrogant. What did you do? I told him I had no authorization to let him in. He threatened to call the police. So I called Mr. Eastwood, who informed him in no uncertain terms that you were the sole owner and that he was trespassing. He left, yelling that this wasn't over. Good work, Mr. Jennings. Hire extra security. I want this place locked down. Mr. Voss, Jennings said, may I show you something? Something Mrs. Voss was working on? He led me to the office in the manor house. It was Barbara's sanctuary. Her desk was neat, her books on the shelves. Jennings pulled a thick binder from a locked drawer. Mrs. Voss had plans for this ranch. Big plans. She didn't want it to just be private property. He opened the binder. It was a complete, detailed proposal. Budgets, blueprints, curriculum. The Barbara Voss Educational Center, I read aloud. Yes, sir. She wanted to use the investment money, $2 million of it, to convert the ranch, build dorms, classrooms, bring in underprivileged children from the city, teach them about agriculture, animals, mechanics, give them skills, a purpose. I stared at the plans, stunned. She had been working on this for years, in secret. She told me last time she was here, Jennings said, his voice thick. Martin will need a purpose when I'm gone, Jennings. The shops aren't enough. This will be his purpose. Tears I hadn't shed at the funeral, or when I was kicked out, finally came. She had known. She had left me a new life. Let's do it, I said, my voice hoarse. Get the architects, get the builders. We're building this, exactly as she planned. For the next few months, I had a new mission. I wasn't just a grieving widower. I was the steward of Barbara's legacy. We broke ground on the dormitories. We hired educators. The pain of my loss was still there, but it was now fuel. I was building something that would outlast me. Dominic hadn't given up. He filed another, even more desperate lawsuit, claiming the ranch was a family asset and that I was squandering his inheritance on a vanity project. This time, I didn't just go to a reporter. I held a full press conference at the ranch, right in front of the half-built classrooms. My son, Dominic Voss, is suing me again, I told the cameras. He claims I am squandering his inheritance. This is the project he's talking about. I unveiled the plans for the Barbara Voss Educational Center. My wife spent the last years of her life designing this center for children who have nothing. This is her legacy, and yes, I am spending millions to build it. Millions that are legally mine, left to me by my wife, who knew her son's greed would try to stop it. The public response was overwhelming. The story changed. I wasn't a cruel father. I was a philanthropic widower honoring his wife. Donations started pouring in. Companies offered to sponsor buildings. Dominic's lawsuit was laughed out of court. A week later, Mr. Eastwood called. "It's over, Martin. Dominic's lawyer quit. Sued him for non-payment. Dominic is broke. The legal fees from the first lawsuit wiped him out." And Tabitha? That's the other thing. She filed for divorce yesterday. Cited irreconcilable differences. The court filing said, "I married the son of a wealthy family, not a broke, disinherited failure." She's gone, Martin. He has nothing. I didn't have to imagine it. Mr. Jennings, who has contacts in town, told me the story. Tabitha had packed her bags, called an Uber, and left Dominic standing on the curb outside their cheap, rented apartment. She didn't even look back, Jennings reported. Just told him he was the biggest disappointment of her life and that he'd ruined her future. He's completely alone. The news brought me no joy, just a profound, aching sadness. Months passed. The center was almost finished. Then, one night, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Dad, I need to talk to you. Please." It was Dominic. We met at a cheap diner, halfway between the city and the ranch. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He was thin, gaunt, his clothes were worn, the arrogance was gone, replaced by a deep, haunted exhaustion. He looked 46, going on 60. He sat across from me, his hands trembling. "Dad, thank you for coming. I'm here. What do you want?" I just need to say it. You don't have to believe me, but I need to say it." I just waited, my coffee untouched. "Mom was right," he whispered, tears welling in his eyes. "She was right about everything. About me, about Tabitha, about what I would do." He looked at me, his eyes full of a shame I'd never seen in him. "And Dad, I have no excuses. I wasn't confused. I wasn't just grieving. I was calculating. I wanted it all. I felt I deserved it all. The moment she was gone, I saw you as an obstacle. I called you useless. I threw you out, and I meant it." He was sobbing now, quiet, broken sobs. "And I lost. I lost everything. The house, the job, the money I thought I had. And Tabitha, she's gone. I know. She told me I was a failure, the one thing I'd spent my whole life terrified of being. And she was right. I am. I'm broke, Dad. I'm working as a basic mechanic at a shop across town. I live in a single rented room. I can barely afford to eat." "And what do you want from me?" I asked, my voice cold. "Money? A job?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "No. I finally understand. Mom didn't cut me out to punish me. She cut me out to save me, to force me to be a man. And I'm not here for money. I'm not asking to be back in the will." He took a deep breath. "I'm just here to ask for a chance to prove over years that I finally understand, that I can finally be the son you deserved." "How?" I asked. "By working, by living on what I earn, and I have one favor, not for money." "What is it?" "The educational center, the one you're building. I saw it on the news. I was so angry at first, but then I saw the plans. I saw what it was for. Mom's dream." He looked at his hands. "Can I volunteer there? On weekends? For free? I can sweep floors, clean stables, anything. I want to do something to honor her memory. For real this time." That was the one thing I hadn't expected. All right, I said slowly. You can volunteer, but there are rules, my rules. You get no money from me. You get no job at my company. You are on your own. You will build your own life from scratch. And if you miss one weekend, if you show 1 ounce of that old arrogance, you are gone. Forever. Do you understand? Yes, Dad. I understand. Thank you. The next Saturday, he showed up at the ranch in an old, sputtering car. I met him at the stables. Mr. Jennings, I called out, Dominic is here to volunteer. What's the worst job we have today? Jennings smiled. The septic line for the new dorms backed up this morning. It's a real mess. Dominic, I said, the shovels are in the shed. Mr. Jennings will show you where. I watched him from the office window. For 4 hours, my son, who once wore $500 shoes, stood in mud and filth, digging out a blocked septic line. He never complained. He just worked. For over a year, Dominic kept his word. Every Saturday, 8 a.m. on the dot. He worked. He cleaned stables. He helped teach the kids basic engine mechanics. He never asked for a dime. I watched him talk to the children, patiently showing them how a spark plug works. I saw him smile, a real smile for the first time in his life. He was still working at the other shop, still living in his rented room. He's changing, Mr. Voss, Jennings told me one afternoon. I think Mrs. Voss would be proud. Maybe, I said. It's still early. A year after our diner meeting, Dominic approached me at the ranch. He looked nervous. Dad, I need to tell you something. My boss, the owner of the shop where I work, he offered me a partnership. He wants to expand, and he needs someone who knows the business. He's asking for a $10,000 buy-in. I tensed. And you're here to ask me for the money? No, he said quickly. No, I've been saving, and my work history has been perfect for over a year. I went to the bank. I've been approved for a loan. On my own. I wanted your advice. As a businessman, do the numbers make sense? He unrolled a business plan. He'd done his homework. Projections, costs, market analysis. I looked at the plan. Then I looked at my son. It's a solid plan, Dominic, but it's a risk. You'll be working 80-hour weeks for the next 3 years. I know, he said, a small, proud smile on his face. It's time I learned how. Then do it. Take the loan. Build something of your own. 2 years after Barbara's funeral, the Beatrice Voss Educational Center had its official inauguration. Hundreds of people were there. The children, their parents, the press. I gave a speech about Barbara, about her vision. I saw Dominic in the back, working, handing out food. Our eyes met. I gave him a small nod. He nodded back. That night, I called him to the house. The same house he'd thrown me out of. He sat on the couch, nervous. Dominic, for 2 years, you have demonstrated real change. You've worked honestly. You've shown humility. You've honored your mother's legacy. I believe she would be proud. Thank you, Dad. That's all I've wanted to hear. So I've modified my will. I'm leaving 80% of my estate to the center, to fund it in perpetuity. The other 20%, it's for you. He looked stunned. Dad, I don't... But with conditions, I said, holding up a hand. The same conditions you're living by now. You continue to work. You continue to contribute. And a portion of what you inherit must be donated back to the center. This isn't a windfall, Dominic. It's a responsibility. I accept, he said, tears in his eyes. I accept it all. Can I hug you, Dad? I stood up. and for the first time since he was a boy, I hugged my son. Today I'm 76 years old. The Beatrice Voss Educational Center is thriving. Dominic's auto shop has 2 locations, and he's a partner, not just an heir. He comes to the ranch every Saturday, not because he has to, but because he wants to. My son threw me out on the street, believing he was in charge. He didn't know about the $29 million, the ranch, or the will. That ignorance, that arrogance forced him to lose everything. But in that fire, he burned away the man he had become and found the man he was always supposed to be. My wife's love didn't just protect me, it saved our son, and that is a legacy worth fighting for. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.